Thank you so much for having me. Today we're going to talk about evolutionary digital transformation. The word transformation usually implies a sudden change. However, a sudden change in real life is either impossible or is very difficult to do with unpredictable results. The case, it is the same case with digital transformation. It's a massive program and it cannot, happen overnight. In fact, 75% of digital transformation projects globally either fail completely or do not achieve majority of their objectives. Until 2018, around $900 billion out of 1.3 trillion that was invested in various digital transformation projects was wasted. This is a massive loss of budget, time, and human capital. And the irony is that the objective of digital transformation is to increase productivity and profit, save time, automate things. So where does this gap come from? What is happening? And I can imagine that some of us today have some really bad experiences in the past with digital transformation. The conversation has been going on for almost 10 years publicly, and so far we haven't really cracked the code on having successful projects all the time. So what is happening here is something we need to really pay attention to. So when we rush into any project, especially digital transformation, which is a journey, it's either from urgency or frustration. We're looking at internal and external factors. Productivity is low, profits are impacted, the costs are higher, automation is not happening. Buying solutions and fixing the problem. Ultimately, force majeure happens, COVID happens, then new realities kick in within a matter of weeks, and the urgency is even higher. Another aspect is forgetting about people and the power of resistance. At the end of the day, any digital transformation project or initiative is about doing something for the people, and people who do it are people as well. But we often tend to forget that the main users, the people who are being impacted by this positively or often negatively, are people. And people resist change, resist the things they don't like, and we rush into just forcing them to take this medicine without considering that what are the implications in there. And of course, another part is fancy technology. There's no shortage of fancy bleeding edge technology, AI systems, machine learning, drones, and whatnot. And we think that throwing these at our problem will automatically solve our problem without even sitting and thinking and introspecting into what our problem is and what we're trying to achieve in the first place. So that's why 75% of the projects fail, because we have a revolutionary approach instead of an evolutionary approach. Revolutions do not work. They are bloody, they are very messy, and is a lot of chaos that comes out of a revolution. Looking back at history, I do not remember reading about a single revolution that came out very clean and did something good for the people in the long run. On the other hand, we look at planet Earth. Life on planet Earth being evolving for 4.5 billion years, very patiently, very diligently. And today we see close to perfection in a lot of species. And this took a lot of time because it was a deliberate approach. Well, we don't have natural selection in digital transformation, but at least we can learn from the evolutionary approach that is happening in the nature and in a lot of context. So a step-by-step evolutionary and inclusive method is the way to go. More on the inclusive in a bit. Another area to consider is to know our limitations, that We don't have unlimited time, budget, or patience with the people that we are doing this with or for. Often we do it to people, which is even worse. So again, focusing on people within that evolutionary approach to digital transformation. When we force people to do things in our families, in our societies, in our companies, we risk triggering a fight or flight mode. And across the organization, it is going to happen. And again, if we look around, we might have seen it many times, more than we like. And this is because the change is not managed properly. When you force someone to do something that they don't like, or they don't understand, or they don't appreciate, it causes frustration and fear. Our ancestors had the same problem. In the savannah, they are walking and they see a predator. If they can fight it, they would stay and fight it to protect themselves and their families. If they cannot, they had to flee to protect themselves and their families. The case is the same in an organization. If we are throwing something at our people and expect them to embrace it and use it and don't talk about it, they either fight it in the way of resisting it, becoming a bottleneck, becoming an obstacle, gossiping about it, or they're going to flee. They're going to stay aloof. I don't want to have to do anything with it. I'm going to stay out of it. Or they're going to look for other solutions, other opportunities. And the outcome will not be what we want. So again, change needs to be managed very, very diligently within this evolutionary approach. Let's have a very quick look and oversimplified, step-by-step journey of how to succeed. And most of us are familiar with these, but it is worth repeating them and looking back at them, especially now that the realities have changed. Bringing everybody on board to start with is the key to have any successful project. And because digital transformation could be your biggest project in the organization, this is even more important today. We got to call everybody from every department, sit and introspect. Yes, maybe virtually today, maybe we don't have the luxury of sitting around the boardroom anymore, but virtually get on a call and talk about why we want to do this. Whoever came up with this idea, they have to make sure that they persuade everybody else. They bring other departments on board, and do not make those decisions behind closed doors, only at the senior manager level. Because imagine the frontline support agents, they know what's going on day to day, but the chief support officer, if there is any in your organization, is only dealing with the high level, organizational level, strategic matters, not the day-to-day operation. So he or she might not be eligible to make a decision for hundreds of customer service agents who are picking up the phone, answering the emails, and nowadays their workload is 500% more. So you need to talk to those people as well. So once you find the why and what we need to do, this journey needs everybody's involvement. Then it's about how to do it and who will do what in the organization. Who is making the decision, who is doing the implementation, who is making sure that everything is inspected and reported back, and who is championing the success. And these who's, by the way, are not single. It could be multiple people, could be teams and committees across the organization, depending on the size of your organization. Documenting the journey obsessively. This is the most boring part. Sometimes, we just outsource it, ask external consultant to come and make decisions for our lives without knowing what exactly is going on in the organization. If you're hiring someone from outside, no matter how professional they are, the information they get is as good as the interviews and the data that they've collected from employees who might not be as happy as you are about what's going on. So the assumptions and the basic data might be wrong from the get-go. You need to involve internal parties as well, make sure they know why we are doing it and they're empowered and motivated as well. So we need to know what is the current state, how are we doing our business today, what are the realities today, and how do we want to do it in the future? What are the processes that are being impacted? What are the systems that might need change or fine tunes? Who are the actors? Who is doing what? And who will be doing what in the future? And I would invite you to go back, take a step back, and do a SWOT analysis and a pest analysis to once again examine your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within and without the organization. And also the pest analysis, the political, economical, social, and technological impacts that are happening around you and impacting your organization and your very lives. So this is a step that cannot be omitted. Without this, this is the roadmap. Without this, nothing will happen. When we're designing the digital transformation journey or the system, design with a systems view. Look at it holistically. Have a world view of what's going on and what's going to happen. Don't decide only for the sales department or the marketing department. Look at the whole world. Look at the connections between these tiny, tiny planets and departments and units. And you'll be amazed by the discoveries you'll make because everything is interconnected. This is a sample SWOT analysis template. I call it function-based or functional. What I mean by that is that it's not about the whole organization. It is definitely worth it to have a SWOT analysis for every single function or unit or department, according to how you're structured. And look at the strength of one department versus the weaknesses of another, because they could complement each other. Or what might look like an opportunity for one department could be actually a threat for another function or department. So it is quite valuable to revisit this. You might say, oh, we've done this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but everything has changed since then, everything. And COVID is an addition. Technology has changed, realities have changed, the economy has changed. So we need to keep this as a live document. And don't stop there, do the pest analysis too. One example for a good pest analysis, let's say politically. Today, if your marketing department depends on, the strategy depends on TikTok, one of the tactics they want to use is using TikTok, and you have clients in the US, but there is a rift between China and the US, and TikTok will be banned in the United States. So your marketing department might revise that, not as an opportunity, but actually as a threat. Or look at the impacts the political dynamic of the world has on this. Similar things happening between China and India. So this is just talking about technology, by the way, which is quite interesting, how the outside world, it changes and impacts the way we do our business. There's a link here. You can download this template, and I'll put it in the chat box in the Q&A time. But it's self-explanatory. You can look it up online, and you can download it. It will be a very good exercise for everybody. Going back to our journey on how to succeed. So we left off at design with a system view. Now, when it comes to implement and fine-tune in phases. So we look at it holistically, but when we implement, it's not, again, overnight flip of a switch. We prioritize the functions and units that are desperately in need of transformation. Is this the sales department? Or is it the finance department? Is this the marketing team? Which area needs to be automated and digitally transformed as soon as possible with the least amount of impact on the rest of the organization? So phase by phase, and every phase and every chunk of implementation needs to be closely monitored and fine-tuned in an agile way, and avoiding assumption and focusing on inspections. What I mean by that? So it is so easy to say, okay, the new sales process is so-and-so, it has 10 steps, and all salespeople have to go through this. Collect the lead, nurture the lead, et cetera, and close the deal. We can assume this, that I give you the process map, and this is your spreadsheet, and that's your CRM, go do it. Almost never it happens. So what are the ways of inspecting ourselves and our teams that this is actually happening? And also, is the new process really working to the benefit of the team and the organization? So it's very key. Forget about assumptions, focus on inspections. Managing change. Repeating this again, I know, but it's absolutely important. Without managing people's expectation and they're addressing their fears and needs and objectives, nothing is going to happen. Empowering champions within the organization is absolutely important, because it's one thing that you go and tell everybody how awesome things are, or have people within the departments who are as excited as you are about what's happening, what this digital transformation project is bringing about in the coming months or years, and let them spread the good word, because people trust each other and their colleagues more than they trust you if they see you every 3 months. So it is very, very important to have internal champions and rely on internal talent than rather than completely focus, relying on outsourced, resources. Again, coming back to evolutionary digital transformation, it's about continuous improvement, tiny steps, tiny improvements, could be daily, could be weekly. It's going to take time, but if it's managed, if it's contained properly, and if we know where we want to go, then this growth and this evolution will reach to a point where perfection is what we can expect. To sum up, focusing on people, process, and technology. This is an old cliche, but it is still relevant. On people, focus on their motives, understand what they want from you. What are their perceptions? What are their real objectives? Hidden agendas. It's not negative. We are people at the end of the day. We have the safety of our family in mind. There's nothing wrong with that. And why are we afraid? What are we afraid? Becoming irrelevant, getting fired, replaced by younger generation, or not being heard or feel important, within the organization. And then it comes resistance. So focus on people, make sure the initiative, the program addresses people before everything else. Process the current state versus future. What are the differences, how to reach there, and what are the improvements that needs to be done down the road, how to manage change properly. And technology. There is no shortage of technology. You have all the fancy technology you can get, but stay away from bleeding edge. Anything that is too shiny and sparkly, just don't buy it. Rule of thumb. And focus on automation. Digitalization is awesome, but make sure that you're focusing on automation, either by human agents or machine agents, and make sure that productivity goes up. And keep this decision for the last. And also bring improvement within that journey of implementing solutions more and more. Wonderful. Now it is your turn to go back to your organizations, to your teams, have this conversation. Most probably you're already in that conversation or in the middle of the project itself, but it's never late to look at these very basic fundamental principles and look at it as an evolutionary and growing project than a fast change, which might lead to failure. Thank you so much.